Hi, this is Dr. Aruna, Assistant Professor, Department of English, KCS Kasinadar College of Arts and Science. And now we are going to discuss some of the major concepts under linguistics. The first thing which we are going to discuss about is differences between pidgins and creoles. Pidgin is a linguistic communication that comprised of components of two or more other languages and is used for communication among people. It can also be called business language. It is not a first language, whereas Creole is a language that was at first a pidgin but has transformed and become a first language. When we want to talk about the structural difference, Creole languages have the subject verb object word order, whereas pidgin can have any possible order. Also, reduplication is a common and general process in Creole languages, but it's not very often found in pidgins. One important difference between pidgins and creoles is that pidgins do not have first language speakers while creoles do. However, this is not easy to make out because there are more and more extended pidgins beginning to acquire native speakers. Extended pidgins refer to when a pidgin becomes a creole. The cultural side of a pidgin usually defines this. This means that more pidgins are becoming first languages. Another difference is that creoles may originate through abnormal transmissions, but as children acquire them, they must therefore comply with the blueprint of language that can also be referred to as how the language is going to be constructed and formed. Blueprints here is comparable to how we relate to a blueprint of a house. However, for pidgins, as they are a result of a second language, although they have to be learnable by adults, they do not have to be acceptable by children. This means that pidgins do not have to comply with the blueprint of language. Pidgins, before they become accomplished languages in a community, are always second languages and usually after teen. Next, we are going to discuss about bilingualism and diglossia. In many countries, regional variation is not simply a matter of two or more dialects of a single language, but can involve two or more quite distinct and different languages. Canada, for example, is an officially bilingual country with both French and English as official languages. In such a situation, bilingualism at the level of the individual tends to be a feature of the minority group. In this form of bilingualism, a member of a minority group grows up in one linguistic community, mainly speaking one language. Example, Welsh in Britain or Spanish in the United States, but learns another language, example English, in order to take part in the larger dominant linguistic community. A rather special situation involving two distinct varieties of a language called diglossia exists in some countries. In diglossia, there is a low variety acquired locally and used for everyday affairs, and a high or special variety learned in school and used for important matters. Next, isoglosses and dialect boundaries. Isogloss is the line that represents the boundary between areas with differences in speech and represents a boundary between the areas with regard to that one particular linguistic term. If a very similar distribution is found for another two items, such as a preference for pail to the north and bucket to the south, and then another isogloss, probably overlapping the first, can be drawn on the map. When a number of the isoglosses come together in this way, a more solid line indicating a dialect boundary can be drawn. Using this dialect boundary information, we find that in the upper Midwest of the USA, there are differences between northern dialect area and Midland. For example, in the northern part they say paper bag, the Midland they say paper sack. Northern pail, Midland it is bucket. Northern kerosene, and in Midland it is coal oil. Northern it is slippery, Midland they are saying slick. Thank you.